My unhinged coworker puts pushpins on my chair and getting more violent day by day. But after months of hell, she suddenly resigned. I have a coworker on my team who I work on a lot of projects with, and I think she may be mentally disturbed. She has been targeting me for the past couple of months, and I only caught on a few weeks ago. Basically, she has a history of breaking a figurine and leaving it all over my desk, going through my personal papers while I was in the bathroom, going through my coworkers and my personal sheets, identifying our merit increases, and yesterday, leaving pushpins facing up on my chair in the morning before I came in. I told my manager about this, and she said nothing will probably change, but she will document it anyway. She's a pretty passive manager and does not like getting involved in conflict. She also has a lot going on with her family and health issues, so she is often overstressed and away from her desk, taking calls from doctors, schools, etc. HR now knows about this problem employee, and they claim they are investigating it. And my manager has said many times that she wants this employee fired, but she takes no steps to document the employee's behavior unless I tell her in writing to do so. Do you think it would be best for me to cut my losses, search for a job at another company, and take chances elsewhere rather than sticking it out here? What am I supposed to do? This coworker is gradually getting more aggressive. Update: 8 months later. I was very firm with my manager and the VP about my intolerance for the situation, and I also went to HR myself demanding meetings. I was definitely being firm from the beginning, but I made it way more obnoxious for them to ignore my concerns. And after several meetings with HR and my manager and the VP of our department, HR and the VP worked out a corrective action plan for the offender. She was not to speak to me or the rest of the team about anything related to the issue she caused, and was generally told to not make idle conversation with me at all, since I told HR myself I want as little contact with her as humanly possible. She was also moved to the other side of the floor to sit directly in front of the VP's office so he could keep an eye on her. She has had many run-ins with HR for leaving an hour or two earlier than she's supposed to, so they figured this would kill two birds with one stone. Anyway, another manager in my department, let's call her Jane, had to work with her on a large high-level project, which required them to have lots of meetings and contact with each other every day. After the first few meetings, Jane noticed that the offender was often not at her desk, even though her meeting calendar was wide open. Since she was having trouble contacting her, she asked her about how she can get into contact with her when she's not at her workspace, so that they can resolve issues quickly. After that moment, the offender began to show Jane her true colors as well. Jane started to receive some violent and strange actions from the offender. For example, coming to her enclosed office in the morning to find her chair knife sliced and things on her desk broke, having pictures of her and her family stolen from her desk, and catching the offender in her enclosed office on several occasions with no reason for being there. The offender also continuously broke into my own manager's enclosed office to steal a calendar from her wall. A few more things occurred with me where the offender would creep into my cubicle when I was not around. However, Jane and another employee would question her every time, and she eventually stopped doing that altogether. Often I would come in and all of my electronics, monitor, computer, phone, cell charger, keyboard, would all be unplugged and jerked around to different areas. The timing was always conveniently early in the morning when very few of us are here. But guess who always was one of those few? You guessed it, the offender. Eventually, we have all learned to always put everything away and lock them in our drawers, even when we go to the bathroom. And most of us have started to come in 30-60 minutes early, just to ensure she doesn't mess with our things. And often we try to make sure at least one person is over in our section at a time, so we can guard each other's things. We all continue discussing these issues with HR, especially as the offender recently has been constantly leaving for hours throughout the day, and leaving hours early without receiving approval or even informing anyone, but they refused to fire her. She often found ways to explain things away, covering herself by saying she took a training to help her be a better employee, etc. She is also a suspected FMLA time-off abuser who has sued previous companies for FMLA discrimination. Purely speculation, but we imagine she was most likely fired from these companies after she kept using unfounded excuses for leaving without approval. Examples: saying she can't work certain days of the week because of her flare-ups, which are always conveniently Wednesday and Friday afternoons, constantly taking time off without having any time in her bank left, etc. Just like she does here. So basically, we got the inkling from the HR reps and their carefully worded explanations for their inaction that they were expecting the offender may attempt to sue the company and they were trying to avoid it. Luckily, however, as of 3 days ago, the offender resigned. Woo! We are all very happy on this team now that we know that she is almost gone forever. In the end, we were all extremely disappointed by how unsupportive our HR department is and by how much power HR reps have. The VP should have been able to remove the offender as soon as he felt so inclined with all the evidence of her violent behavior. Yet, HR was able to block him every time. Ultimately though, for now, we can all breathe a little better because she will no longer be able to terrorize us.